2 woman steps to the front of a room, wielding a meat cleaver, people tend to pay attention. While this situation could strike fear into the hearts of observers, any concerns are immediately erased as that 6'2" woman lets out an infectious laugh and proclaims, "Bon appetit!" as she begins to prepare a classic French beef bourguignon. Julia Child, known to American television audiences of the 1970s and 80s, can easily be identified as the American queen of French cuisine. Child led a life of adventure, living in 6 different countries before her death in 2004. Though she is most known for her famous French cookbooks and cooking shows, Child's life was one of excitement that deserves to be examined in its entirety, including her education, work in the OSS, early career, and late fame. Born Julia McWilliams in 1912, Child was destined to attend Smith College. According to the Smith College archives, her mother, Julia Carolyn Weston, had attended the respected women's school, and Child often described it as being enrolled at Smith at birth, only to graduate from there in 1934. Now, a woman's school in the 1930s was much different than in 2017, and one rule to be strictly adhered to was that social events were to be avoided on Sundays. Nevertheless, Child managed to have great fun. She was assistant editor of the college gossip newspaper and was a grass cop, patrolling the lawns to make sure nobody walked on the grass. And, as she later related, Child and her roommates in Hubbard House often secretly smoked cigarettes out their window at night. In the end, however, Child's formal education did little to prepare her for her eventual aptitude for cooking. She took no cooking classes whatsoever, instead focusing her time on music and earning her degree in history. After her graduation from Smith, Child made a career choice that few know about today. During the height of World War II, she joined the Office of Strategic Services, or OSS, which, according to the Julia Child Foundation, was a precursor to the CIA. She was a research assistant and later a researcher in the Secret Intelligence Division. That's right, Julia Child was a secret agent during World War II. Initially stationed in Washington, D.C., she was transferred to what was then Ceylon and later to China. And it was while in China that Child first tried her hand at cooking, of a slightly different sort. The OSS had bombs planted in the water to try to catch German U-boats, but sharks kept setting them off instead. Determined to fix the issue, Child experimented with concoctions until she developed the first amateur shark repellent, which was later replicated for mass production. This period of Child's life was one of adventure. She traveled all over and did secret work, but perhaps the most important thing she did during this time was meet Paul Child, a fellow OSS employee who she married in 1946. After their marriage, Paul took a position with the U.S. Foreign Office and was attached to the American Embassy in Paris. This experience shaped Julia's early career like no other. For Julia, Paris was love at first sight. Constantly, throughout her life, she would reflect on the first meal she ate in France, a sole fish prepared in butter, and how it changed her life. As she described it, "I was 32 when I started cooking. Up until then, I just ate." Inspired by the abundance of fresh ingredients in Paris, Child took a year-long course at the Parisian cooking school Le Cordon Bleu, where, according to her autobiography entitled My Life in France, she was the only woman in a group of 12. It was during this time that Child realized the lack of education for women about French cooking. She couldn't stand to see other women denied access to the food she loved, so Child and 2 friends, Simone Beck and Louisette Berthold, embarked on a 9-year journey that produced the 726-page first edition of Mastering the Art of French Cooking. The publication of this French cooking Bible then shaped Child's later fame. Because it was named a Book of the Month Club selection, sales took off and are still consistent today. After its publication in 1961, the American public craved Julia Child. Her bright laugh and contagious smile graced 13 different television series between 1963 and her death in 2004, including her most famous called The French Chef. Not only was she busy with this, She also wrote 17 other books of recipes and stories of her adventures living in France, Germany, and America for Paul's job. Later in life, because of Julia's television success, the Childs were able to comfortably retire to their home in Provence, where they lived out the rest of their days eating lots of good, rich food. Julia Child believed in butter. She loved to cook for those she cared for and lived a life of adventure that was truly remarkable. This American queen of French cuisine, who is quickly becoming a thing of the past, should always be remembered and respected for being an influential force in American culture, who created an empire around thriving in the kitchen, in a time when a woman's only role was really in the kitchen. And so, for Julia, always remember, bon appetit.